Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Up and Coming with Shoby. For people who are reading, watching, or listening to this perhaps for the first time, I would like to give you a chance to find out more about who our guest is. So, Shoby, could you introduce yourself and tell us more about you?
Yes, sure. So, I'm originally from Dubai, based in Germany. Been producing music for a little over 10 years now, or 11 years. I started off as, my interest in music started off as a DJ, and I was always playing for a lot of events. And over the years, it transformed into my to make my own music, to make remixes, to make originals, and that's where I am today. So love producing music, love working with the Soave team, and I'm based in Germany now. So yeah,
Amazing. And can you tell us a little bit more about what made you decide to get into the music scene?
sure. So I think, like I said, it all started off probably when I was 14 or 15. Actually, as a DJ, so I was playing for a lot of student events and things like that. And that was going on for quite a few years back in Dubai. And I think somewhere down the line, I had that feeling that, hey, it would be nice to actually start producing your own music. And I started experimenting with different softwares, different instruments. I was always interested in playing the piano, playing drums, things like that. So kind of took off from there, and eventually I started experimenting with creating bootleg remixes, which were not allowed to be released. We're just creating them anyways, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And eventually, I started watching hundreds of hours of YouTube tutorials, speaking to different producers, you know, and just going from there and learning the craft of production from there. Yeah.
Cool. I know you just mentioned that you started becoming a DJ at 14, 15. Would you say that music had a really big role in your life before that? Like, did you already know you would get into music at some point, or did you have anyone close to you who was into music that helped you kind of get into it?
Yeah, quite a few people in my family have been always very artsy and kind of either in some sort of arts, either whether it's creative arts, whether it's video production, photography. My dad was a lot into music back at that time, so all that kind of had that influence on me. And I think as a person, I'm generally a creative person, so I was always interested in some sort of creative thing. And I think music was that kind of let out for me, where I was like, hey, that's something which I feel really, really happy and passionate. And it's still like that today after all these years. I mean, it's been over 10, 15 years now of being into music. And I still get equally excited when I've produced something new, or I'm hearing something for the first time, or a new track comes out from me, and I'm equally excited. So it's kind of, and that's where I know that, okay, this is something that I'm really passionate about, because it just makes me happy.
I get that. I get that. And throughout all these years, have you experienced different and tried out different genres of music? Were you always specifically interested, perhaps, around what you produce now, or has your taste changed throughout the years?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Rita. Actually, it's funny that you asked this. When I started off back in the day with music, or rather, I was playing for a lot of student events and things like that. I was actually super into hip hop, R&B, and I still am. I love it. It's kind of something that I still love listening to. Over the years, my taste and my liking for music has been super wide in term or super yeah very wide in terms of genre. So I still listen to a very wide genre of music even today. There'll be days where I'm listening to chill house music, the kind of music that I usually produce and what I really love to produce, or deep house music. But then there's weeks where I'm just listening to R&B, hip hop, Afro beats, things like that. And then there are days where I'm listening to, I don't know, Portuguese music, just to or Romanian music or something like that. And that's just because that's the nice thing about music. It's so there's so much variety in it, and listening to different kind of music just kind of opens up your mind and yourself to different sounds and different things. So I love this. I mean, the days I listen to Indian music, I love it. My roots are Indian, so I love listening to that. But the days where I listen to, like I said, Portuguese music, Romanian music, Spanish music. So yeah, it's always like that. I mean, though I always end up coming to where I feel most at home at, and that is kind of the direction of chill house, deep house, tropical house, things, things that are really laid back. But yeah, always open for different genres.
Wow. I think this is a great new perspective that a lot of fans or followers perhaps don't know about, that their own artists are also into different genres. But does your producer self also change a lot with genres? Do you love to experiment, or do you always gravitate towards a specific kind of genre?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like a mix of both, right? So on one side, you always try to make sure that your listeners and maybe even new listeners kind of know the Shoby sound and come back to that kind of chill house, laid
Mm.
back kind of loungy house, whatever you might call it, feeling and sound. At the same time, I think it's really important as a producer to see what's happening outside of your studio, outside of your world. So I always kind of, I'm always inspired by other artists, other people, and other sounds that are going around. So that over the years, there have been times where I started kind of integrating new sounds into my music, which are just trying to keep up with the time as well, right? Because people's taste change as well. So listeners change, taste change as well. And it's important as a producer that you take that into consideration. So on one side, you do what you love, and on the other side, you also need to make sure that your listener at the end of the day is getting what they are looking for. So I always try to kind of incorporate those different genres, those different tastes into my music. And I think I will always keep doing that.
Amazing. And thank you for all the useful tips as a producer. But I wanted to also ask you, what skills do you think DJs need to be aware of or successful in? And how are these skills perhaps different as a music producer?
Yeah, so I think Um, these are, I always say that they're two very different things. So DJing and production are
Mhm.
two very different things. So from my roots, of course, I come from, a place where I've always played other people's music, right? That's where I started off from as a DJ. That's what you do. And you're always making sure that your crowd, people on the dance floor are always happy and always enjoying, having fun, having the best time or the best night of their life, probably, right? And I think that's really important, that you're always reading the crowd as a DJ. You're always making sure that people have a good time, and you're very quick to understand if things are not going as planned. Then you're quick to change and adapt yourself to that. I think that's where it kind of differs to music production, because in music production is quite a technical part of music, right? You're really starting from a blank piece of music. I mean, at behind me you can see one of the projects that I'm working on, which really started off as a blank sheet, and now it's kind of built into this whole song. And I think that's where you need kind of a lot of understanding of how different sounds sound together, how they're mixed together. You need definitely a good knowledge of chord theory, chord progressions, different production techniques, things like that, just to make sure that your end product really sounds good everywhere. So it just shouldn't sound nice in someone's headphone, but should sound good in a bar, in a club, in someone's car, or even if someone just working in the office and is playing your track on Spotify in the background. And I think that all comes together as a music producer, which is kind of a little more technical than just playing someone else's music. But I think both of the arts are amazing. Both of them require your fair amount of understanding, experience, and things like that. And they're a lot of fun. So so regardless which direction you go with, I think there's a lot to learn, a lot to try out, and I'm still learning. It's been so many years that I've been producing music and DJing as well. Now I'm so much more deeper into production, but I'm still learning, and I think I'm far from any kind of endpoint. As a music producer, you never end up the learning process. You're always learning something.
Great. That's amazing to hear. And thank you for all the details. I wanted to ask, how do you manage to stay up to date with all these trends that are going on in the music industry?
Oh, that's fairly simple. It's just listening to a ton of music and listening to music listening to music all day. So literally, I start listening to music first thing in the morning, probably when I'm brushing my teeth, and it's probably the
Mhm.
last thing I do before I go to sleep. So I'm always listening to music while I'm working, while I'm on the move. Either I've got my AirPods on, or in the car, or yeah, pretty much everywhere. And then also just trying to see what's happening out there. Like I said before, I think it's important. A lot of people, a lot of producers don't really look outside of their studio of what's happening, right? And I think it's important as a producer that you're always seeing what's happening in the market, what's happening in the music space, what are the new trends, what kind of sounds are being really in right now, what kind of sounds very old and kind of rotten and not to be used anymore. So I think that's there. So I usually end up listening to a lot of music, watching a ton of checking out a ton of new charts on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, etc. Again, listening to a lot of different genres of music from different parts of the world, and also just speaking to other artists, right? Just speaking to other music producers, speaking to other fellow artists, seeing what's happening, what they're doing. And a lot of times, what I've really enjoyed doing, and I think that's thanks to Soave, really is to do really meaningful collaborations with other artists. So I think that's been an amazing learning process for me. So working with other artists and just learning their creative flow and their creative process, because that's been a super stepping stone for me to also see how others are working for this.
Is there a specific project you're thinking about that you're really proud of, perhaps?
Oh, there's tons. I mean, there's been so many different artists that I've been working with. I mean, especially through Suave as well. I mean, I think one of the artists that I've really recently enjoyed to start working with is an artist on Suave called Honey. He's a super nice guy. And we often exchange ideas and different creative processes and things like that. And yeah, but there's really so many great artists out there, and that's a nice thing. Just appreciating the fact that there's so much great knowledge out there, and just kind of taking that in. So I think that's important as an artist as well, not just to be in your own silos, but also just
Yeah.
look out there and see what's happening.
And with all this processes, with analyzing trends, sharing ideas, um, is there something that you learned the hard way as a producer?
Um, well, like I said, you're always learning. I think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, learning. You never really end up finishing learning, or you never really stop learning. It's a creative process, and I think that will be forever. So I'm learning something new every day. I mean, I was watching a YouTube tutorial yesterday at like 11 p.m. on certain frequencies that clash with it. Really boring stuff. Nothing that nothing that interests the normal person. But you're always learning. But I think I mean, sure, I've had tracks which I've heard later on, and I've said, hey, I could have done that slightly better, or mixed it slightly better, or maybe the sound wasn't exactly what I had in mind, and maybe I could have done it better. But that's the beauty of music. You learn as you go, and you always try to beat yourself from the last time. So you try to do better than the last time. I think um, what I've learned the hard way is the importance of social media. That's for sure, right? I mean, we often speak about that, but a lot of producers, they're so busy in the craft of creating music, and sometimes you forget about how important it is to also get it out there to different people on different platforms. So I think that's something I've learned over the past some years, and yeah. But I think it's like I said, it's a never-ending process, always learning, and I'm happy about that.
That's amazing. And do you have, let's say, your number one tip to share to your audience as being a producer? I know you've mentioned a couple already, but what is something that you wish you knew a long time ago that you figured out perhaps a lot later in time?
I think when I started producing music, like really writing music, producing, whether it was remixes, covers, original music, um, I was very disappointed by the fact that I had so many finished tracks, and you would always get rejection. You will always get rejections, and it happens when you, especially when you're starting out, when you're new to things, when your sound is maybe not that defined. You're always getting rejections. You're getting sometimes you're getting rejection with feedback, sometimes without feedback. My tip to producers would be, no matter how many rejections you get, ask for feedback, use that, take that in, and really try to change your, like, try to become better, keep practicing, keep doing that again and again and again, and maybe the 100th time it works, because it did for me as well. So I think at the beginning I must have sent out 100 tracks to, and I think even to Soave, there's not 100. And eventually I got so much great feedback from the team, from the A&R team at Soave, where I figured out, okay, this is what I was doing wrong. That's what I need to do better. And eventually that's what made me better as a producer as well. So just never stop trying, and never get disheartened from the fact that you will get rejections, because that's just how it is. You will get rejection. You need to kind of pick yourself up, take that knowledge in, keep practicing, keep trying to be better. And then eventually it just works out. And I think that's my biggest tip, because I think that's what keeps you going, because there will be days where you will have produced your 100 track and it'll still be rejected, and it'll be like, okay, is it really worth it? Should I still keep doing this, or am I just a crappy producer? And I think that's where you need to stop and be like, no, I'm just gonna keep doing this until I become better and better. And yeah.
That's really important also for all the new upcoming artists who are trying to dive in the music industry. So that's also super nice to hear from you, who has already some experience. How did you manage to balance out this negativity across your life? Was it just through your passion, or did you just never want to let go of your dream, or what was it?
Yeah, I think it's just staying on what you're passionate about, right? Everyone is passionate about something or the other in their life. Some people are passionate about art, music, football, whatever. And I think as long as you really, really love something, and you know that you really want to become good in a craft, regardless of what it is, it can be cooking, it can be baking cakes, or it can be making music in your studio. As long as you do it enough times, I think eventually you do succeed. I think it's something that I've heard maybe 1,000 times again and again. If you do something like 10,000 hours, and you become really good at it, right? You become an expert in it. And at first I thought, okay, it's just kind of a saying, what people say just to kind of get you happy and do things. But it's true. If you do something enough number of hours and really invest valuable time into it, there is no way that you will not become good at it. That's just how it is. So it's always like that. And I think it was the same for me when I started off DJing. I mean, I think I thought when I started off DJing, I was horrible in my bedroom. But then eventually in practice that so many times that I was busy every weekend. And that's the same thing in production. You're producing in your own bedroom, and eventually, you have your sound that you're confident about, and then people start liking it and appreciating the music out there. So just keep at it. Don't stop. I think that's the most important thing I would do. It. I follow that myself, and I would tell everyone to follow that.
These are really nice words. Thank you. And I'm sure everyone listening is appreciating them. I wanted to also ask if there's anything specific that you would like to explore in 2023. What are your upcoming plans in the future? Can we have some hints?
So I'm working on tons of music right now. So I have like tons of collaborations that I'm working on, tons of music that I'm working on alone as well. I'm exploring a lot of different genres of music within chill house, you can say, as well, because house music is quite big itself. And within that, you have a lot of subgenres, which are maybe similar in some way or the other. So I'm working on a lot of different genres. Something that maybe many people don't know of is that I absolutely love listening to lo-fi music. It's something that I'm doing as a side project. So you will hear more about that as the year goes by. But that's something I really love doing. And the past some years I've been a huge fan of Afrobeats music for some reason, and I'm kind of working on a couple of tracks just for fun. I don't know if they will ever be released, to be honest. Let's see. I might send them over to the team at Soave and see if they're interested. But yeah, it's a tons of new music. Um, yeah, so lots of things in the pipeline, but you will hear about them very soon for sure.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And you recently released also a new track. Can you tell me a little bit more about your song Flowers? What is the song about? Any, what was your inspiration process creating that? Let us know
Sure.
about it.
Sure. Thanks, Rita, for that question. So, Flowers is interesting, right? So the track originally from Miley Cyrus, I think pretty much everyone and their neighbor has heard this at least 100 times.
Yeah.
Every possible radio and every possible Spotify list and things like that. The first time I heard the track, to be very honest, I was just like, man, it was okay. And one day I think Jonah Baker is absolutely awesome singer. I'm still amazed by his voice. He's a very, very talented singer, an artist, and a good friend. And he sent over an acoustic version of Flowers to me. I worked with Jonah a couple of times in the past. It's always done really well. People love his voice. People love the tracks we produced together. And I think it was like 3 a.m, and I received an email from Jonah, and he was send me just the stems and an acoustic version of Flowers. And I was blown away. I was just like, it's 3 a.m, switched on my phone. I was like, that's it. I literally switched on my laptop, popped things into on my laptop, and just started working on random ideas. And I think I must have done that for the next couple of hours until it was morning. Uh, and then, of course, went on producing for a couple more days, shared ideas back and forth, and that's how the track came together. And I'm really happy about it. I'm super excited about the cover. Probably has to be one of my favorite covers out right now because it's got such a nice vibe to it. The people seem to be getting really good feedback on the track as well. So that's how it kind of came about. It was quite a random idea that just popped over, and yeah, it just kind of went from there. And I think that's some of the nicest music that I've ever produced have actually been just unplanned tracks, like not tracks that I've thought about, just tracks that happened to come by to me, and I just kind of started playing around with ideas, and I was like, okay, wow, this sounds really good.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this backstory, and of course, for all the little hints you dropped about some potential upcoming tracks. And of course, I wanted to thank you for your time for this up and coming interview. And of course, we're both inviting everyone to listen to your new track, Flowers, with Jonah Baker. And of course, follow Shoby as our up and coming artist. Thank you for joining this episode, and see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. See you guys.